Irene, we can start with you because you were the first one.
Okay. Hi, my name is Irene Etienne. I am a researcher and a lecturer at Linnaeus University in Sweden. I also do international business strategy consultancy as well. So that's about me, and I'm glad to be here. I find this very interesting because I focus in internationalization of African farms, digital platform farms. Yes, thank you.
That's so interesting. Very nice to meet you, Irene. And thanks for joining.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
I can see Andrew. Andrew was with us last time.
Yes.
Andrew Munganga.
Mm-hmm. But you can quickly introduce yourself.
Right, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Andrew Munganga from Zambia, and I'm with the Impact Center for Policy Research, where I'm the executive director. So glad to be here again. It was a very wonderful session last time, and I'm pretty sure today will be an awesome one as well. Thank you.
Thanks for joining again, Andrew. It's nice to see that you found the first session very interesting, and as the series continues, it's going to get more interesting. So thanks for coming back. Then there's Krista.
Hello, thank you so much. So, my name is Krista Montanje from Zambia. I'm also part of the Impact Center for Policy Research, and I serve as the Programs and Partnership Manager. And also, I'm an environmental health officer by profession. Thank you.
Very nice to meet you, Krista, and thanks for being here. We hope this session is going to be helpful. So we're going to start at exactly 2:05. Let me see, just to keep things. Oh, okay. We have another person who's joined. Sorry. Nandi. Nandi, please introduce yourselves. We're doing introductions for the early birds, and then we'll get into the main webinar of today. Nandi, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you, though the volume is a bit low.
I'm noisy place. I was saying,
Okay.
my name is Nandu Durang.
Yeah.
I work as a business advisor.
Mm-hmm.
I've got few clients in Mozambique and a little bit all over the world.
Yeah.
And I just got across this opportunity for a friend, thought about joining to learn more about what you guys are doing. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks so much, Nandi. It's good to see there's more people from Mozambique on the call today. We hope the webinar is going to be very fruitful for you. I see also Sia and Lloyd have joined. You can do a quick introduction so everyone else can know where you're from, what organization, and what you do.
Yeah, I'll go first. Apologies, my voice is not so well today. My name is Lloyd Stevo. I'm based in Mozambique, and I'm part of the Africa Collaboration Chamber as the partnership head. And I'm running a company called Enabler Group, which is based in Mozambique. It's basically on the engineering space. So there's quite a lot of benefits in being part of such discussions because most of our products are imported from other parts of Africa. So understanding what the Continental Free Trade Agreement brings in terms of improving the current trade bottlenecks. It's one of our key objectives. So looking forward for the session.
Thanks so much, Lloyd, and thanks for joining again and being a part of today's webinar. So Sia and then Lydia, then we can start. I think the rest, once they join, will have already started. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Brenda.
Era rehabilitar. ¿Quién va a rehabilitar?
Hi, Sia, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Am I audible?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Hi, I am Sia. I am in South Africa. I work for CLG and I am the Business Development Manager. I'm here with my colleague, Nongululek.
Oh, nice. That's so nice. Say hi to Nonku.
We're here to support you, Vic.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We hope that today's session is going to be nice because you missed the last one, but we'll catch up. We'll catch you on.
Thank you.
Then Lydia, then we can start.
What's up?
Hi.
Good day, everyone. My name is Lydia Jonathan Katangela. I am founder and CEO of the African Youth in Energy Networking. I'm also an investment facilitator, business development consultant. I wear so many hats. I am so excited to be here for the second session. I hope we can learn more today, like we did last week. Looking forward to today's session. And before I close off my introduction, Brenda, can I just do 5 more minutes more? I have a group of people joining in. They didn't RSVP, so I just sent them the link now. They are quite eager.
Sure, that's fine. And you forgot to tell us what country you're in.
Oh, I am Zambian based in South Africa.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, we can give, I see there's more people who've joined, so we can give them opportunities to introduce themselves as we buy you time, 5 minutes.
Sorry to cut you short, Lydia, is it 5 minutes for real or 5 minutes on paper?
Like literally, let's start with the countdown right now.
Okay, great.
Okay. So I see Mainza. Mainza, you can introduce yourself, country you're in, organization you're in, profession, and maybe an expectation of today's call.
Right, thank you so much. I hope you get me from the other end. Are we able to go?
Pardon? Manza, if you're not in a position to speak, you can also just chat in the group. That's fine. And then we can go to Antonio. Antonio, can you hear us? If you're not ready, we can have Kiki introduce herself. Sorry, Shen, if you're able to speak, you can after Kiki. If not, you can just type on the group. We're buying Lydia 5 minutes.
I appreciate because the mistake was on my end. I told them 1:30 instead of 1, so I just communicated with them now.
No worries. KK, are you able to unmute?
Hello, sorry about that. I think it was the network. Hi everyone, my name is Dikizin Zanzawa. I am the chairperson of the African Energy and Economic Youth Council. I'm based in Johannesburg, and I'm so excited about this session to learn more about AfCFTA.
CFTA.
Thank you.
Same thing as Amani, don't worry.
This is the reason why we need to learn about it. We always miss the free, the F in the middle.
Okay, I think I see an M-Pro. I'm not so sure who they are, but if you can unmute yourself and introduce yourself, that'll be great. So we just get to know each other and network before the webinar starts. Starting in exactly 3 minutes.
Hello. Good
Hi.
morning. Hi. Hello. My name is Miguel. I'm based in Mozambique, and I've received this invitation, and I was wondering and wanted to know a bit more about this trading and what we can do in Africa and access other markets. I'm currently looking forward to expand to Angola. So yeah, I want to know a bit more, and South Africa also. I want to know a bit more about the market access.
Great, thanks so much for joining us. There was a fast session, but we'll try to catch on those who weren't there last week, and then we'll proceed with what this week is about.
Okay.
All right.
And I'm on my sector of activities is marketing and communication and event management also.
Ah, that's great. Still in the, are you in the energy sector, mining, or just trade?
Yeah, we work. Yeah, we work with a lot of players. We work with the Sazol. We work with Vodacom. We work with oil and gas companies like Eni and Total. And yeah, we are working on this for quite a while. We're 16 years in Mozambique. The company is based in Mozambique, is Mozambican. So yeah, and we're looking to expand to markets if possible.
Thank you so much. I hope this session is going to be helpful in doing that, because today we actually get into the gist of it. So Sarishan had a few questions regarding how the AfCFTA works, because he's already trading with other countries outside the SADC region, which is the South African region, and wanted to know how he could take advantage of the AfCFTA to do that. So we hope this session can be helpful, because we're getting into the midst of it today. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Great.
All right. Thank you so much. So I assume that's everyone for now, but if I've locked you out, you can just unmute yourself and introduce yourself, then we can start now. Okay, so I assume everyone is okay in terms of introductions. Okay, so we'll get into today's session. Lydia, I hope your guests catch us before we're into the webinar. So last week we discussed what the AfCFTA is, and generally understanding the entirety of the agreement, which is, as we said last week, it's a creation of one single market where African countries are able to trade within each other, not just trading goods, but also trading services. And we also discussed the different protocols that make this possible. We looked at the protocol of trading goods, protocol of trade in services, protocol of a protocol on intellectual property. We looked at protocol on dispute settlement under the AfCFTA, and all that. So we also got into the statistics of where the AfCFTA has been since it was established into implementation through the guided trade initiative and what it's been able to achieve and what the challenges still are up to this point. So today we're going to get into market access, the business case for expansion. Now, as we discussed in the last webinar, each region, essentially South Africa, Southern Africa, West Africa, East Africa, Central Africa, and North Africa, each of them operate under different regional economic zones. So we call that the RECs, and each REC has its own regime where countries within that particular region are able to trade within each other on zero-rated tariffs, and also they've discuss within themselves how to make that region essentially borderless for purposes of trading within one another. We've however seen there have been challenges within this REX, and the purpose of AfCFTA is essentially to make the entire Africa borderless. So not just trade within Southern Africa for Southern Africans, but someone from SA or Mozambique being able to take their goods and services into a place like Rwanda, in East Africa, Ghana in West Africa, Congo in Central Africa, so on and so forth. So we'll get into it. And as I've stated, so by the end of this webinar, you'll know exactly how to qualify for AfCFTA tariff reductions. That's if you're a trader. And I believe the way we've structured this webinar is supposed to assist people in business, both SMEs and people who are business leaders, be able to take advantage of what this policy is about. So essentially taking policy into execution and understanding what documents you require to take advantage of this and how to avoid the costly mistakes that often deny people AfCFTA benefits. So, as I briefly stated, during webinar 1, we got to look at the text of the AfCFTA, what it is, what it's not, and we also got to break down the stats as of the end of 2024, progress and barriers experienced so far. Today we get to look at tariff reduction under the AfCFTA, classification of your products under the AfCFTA, what rules of origin guide the AfCFTA, and documentation businesses must get right. So before we get into it, I had a little question. I don't know whether Amani, you're able to put it up for me. Yeah, I needed to do an interactive poll before we start because I realized from last week's discussion, it's better to have more of a conversation than essentially the masterclass as is, because then it enables us interact on a more reality perspective level, as opposed to just learning what the policy is, because then at the end of this masterclass, you should be able to execute this within your businesses and also help other business people be able to execute it. So I don't know whether you're able to see it.
There's a Q&A. Have put up a Q&A. Please use your reaction to see. If you go on your Q&A, there are questions there, the first one.
Okay, thank you, Amani. So it's just a quick poll that you can, just pick one. I'll give you the answer as we go, but I just want to see where we're at as today's audience. Sorry, Amani, did you put it up? I'm struggling to see it.
On the Q&A side and not on the chat. However, I can also put on the chat for people. So there's two sections on your Teams. There's the Q&A and there's the chat.
Okay. Right. I think maybe it's because I'm a presenter, so I'm able to see this side, but I'll just check.
Okay, I'll put it also on the chat, so whoever is able to see from the chat side or the Q&A, they'll be able to answer.
You can also put the second poll because they go hand in hand.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Andrew, I see you've responded. I think from this you can tell policy makers and business people. Because business people are on one side.
That's why they need to talk to each other, because some of this we don't know.
Yeah. But is that everyone? So you can just type A or B. The question is, AfCFTA tariff benefits apply to all goods traded between African countries. So I see Andrew said that's true. Nandi, Sareshan, and Lloyd have said that's false. Amani, you haven't even put up your answer. Are you shy?
Listen, not shy. Let me put.
It's
Yeah,
okay
I
to
think
fail. I'm not going to kick you out of the class.
yeah, it's okay not to know. I'll put my answer. Or maybe yes, I'll put my answer.
All right. Okay. That's good. So we go to question number 2 because they go hand in hand. Sarshan, I see your question. Only those ratified? Yes. So we're speaking AfCFTA from last week's class. So with that understanding under the agreement itself. Okay, and then now question 2, Amani.
Okay. I
So
will also put it on the chat because I feel like people are struggling a little bit. So I will also put it on the chat because I had put in the Q&A, but also I'll put it.
Yeah. Okay, so those who haven't answered question 1, you can just lean on either side. But now we just answer question 2, which is why do most businesses lose AfCFTA tariff benefits? I need to see all the business people here, surely. If you're trading and you're advising a company, you need to know where you're losing your money, because this is where it gets interesting, and that's the purpose of today's webinar, to get into the meats of it. Okay. Okay, I see 3 different answers. Okay, that's good. I think I should grade the students of this class and award. Okay, all right. That's quite interesting. So that's almost everyone. Now, so question 1. If you answered true, you're wrong. But I'm going to explain why as we go. So the question was whether the AfCFTA benefits apply to all goods traded between African countries. The answer is false. It does not. And I'll explain as we get into this. And that's why it was so important to have the first webinar, so that when we get into this, there's a clearer understanding. The second question is where businesses fail most, right, and lose AfCFTA tariff benefits. Those who answered rules of origin are correct. We're going to look at it as we go. So this is why many African businesses are not enjoying AfCFTA benefits. It's not due to transport logistics or payments, transfers, all these things, but the major benefit for why AfCFTA was created and why they're losing out. One, wrong rule of origin is applied. We're going to get into the meats of this as we go. Two, you don't have a certificate of origin for your goods. Three, over reliance on non-African inputs. So you get you import products from China, you import products from Netherlands, from wherever. Then you come and say, I have this industry and I'm making this good and I want to sell it within AfCFTA. That's not going to get you a certificate of origin. And we'll discuss it as we go and what that essentially means for your business. And if you're a manufacturer, what you should tweak around that to meet the criteria to enjoy the AfCFTA benefits. Lastly, poor documentation. So what are reduced tariffs under AfCFTA? So to understand this, we must understand this in 4 different areas. So how the AfCFTA works, it works like any other REC, works like any other regional economic zone through tariff concession schedules. So there are no blanket exemptions where they say, so long as you've ratified the AfCFTA agreement, then this applies to the countries. No. So there's some countries that get, benefit to reduce their tariffs within 5 years and some within 10 years. We'll get into what those countries are. But each country gets to submit its own tariff schedules, which then is critical for you as a business person to understand, either through yourself or through your advisor, what those tariff schedules are and what tariff reductions apply depending on the goods. So what does this mean? It means tariff reductions are not automatic. They're product specific, they're country specific, and they're time bound. As I've stated, the AfCFTA was not created to reduce tariffs in one day. It reduced tariffs over a number of years, depending on what the country is, whether it's a least developed country or it's a developing country. So if in countries like Togo don't have the same reduction timelines as countries like South Africa and so on and so forth, including countries that first got into the GTI, which is Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, Tunisia, Egypt, Ghana, and Mauritius. So we'll get into it to understand what this exactly means. Before we get to this, I had another quick question. Or I could just put it after this slide. Now, what does this mean when you talk about concession schedules? So there's a tariff liberalization structure where different goods have different structures to liberalize over a certain number of years for each country. So AfCFTA, the agreement divides products into 3 categories. So one is a non-sensitive product, which is 90% of tariff lines. Essentially what this means, for these goods that fall under non-sensitive products, all countries that have ratified the AfCFTA are supposed to gradually reduce their custom duties to 0%. This happens over 5 years for non-LDCs. This is developing countries. So developing countries are those that are more developed than the least developed countries. Get this definition from the World Trade Organization that essentially most African countries either fall under developing countries or a least developed country. So these are the main product businesses should target, but we'll slowly get into it because not everyone is in this line of business. Then we have B, which is sensitive products. It falls under 7% of tariff lines. These are reduced more slowly and duty remains for longer periods of time. So essentially, countries are not expected to reduce them immediately, and it includes agricultural products and strategic industrial goods, which also includes some minerals. They still benefit from AfCFTA, but not immediately duty-free, so it takes a while. Then there's the exclusion list, which is 3% of tariff lines. What this means is these goods, regardless of what happens, do not fall under the AfCFTA tariff reduction. and the fully protected product. So if your product falls here, AfCFTA does not essentially help on tariffs. You can respond on the chat, but the question I wanted to leave open-ended here was, which category do you think your product falls under? So on the chat, you can write, I trade in diesel, or I trade in diamonds, or I trade in this and this product, and you can make a guess of where your product essentially falls. Either an unsensitive, sensitive product, or an exclusion list, and then I'll get into responding where it actually falls and why that is. Now, this is where I needed your assistance, Amani. I wanted us to have the third question on the chat. So as they respond to what goods they trade in and what category they think it falls under, I'll keep this page open as you type that part of the question in the chat, and then we can answer all of them together. I need to go to the chat. Okay, I can see the responses. Only Lydia has stated what they trade in, what she trades in. I think it's important for you to respond to this part, because then if you're a business person, you'd like to know whether your product essentially falls under the category that qualifies for 100% tariff reduction. But if you're comfortable booking a consultation after this, it's quite expensive, but you can go ahead and wait. Okay, so fine. So I'll go to the first question that I left on the page and then get into the second part. Since only Lydia has responded, I'll assume everyone else is trading in diesel who's on this call. And I'm going to explain what this good falls under and whether Lydia is correct. Sarshan, you need to write what product it is. Otherwise, I'll charge you for consultation and it's not cheap. Okay. Good answer. Lydia, you didn't tell us where you think your product falls under. Do you think it falls under A, B, C? Oh, okay. You manufacture. Okay, I hear you. Okay. I see your answer. Are those who offer services affected? At this point, no, but you'll be excited to know that it's the trading services is going to come in the upcoming webinar, not the third one, but we have an entire session on trading services because it's very critical and we're not yet there. Okay, Lydia, so there's 3 categories. There's the sensitive, non-sensitive, which is A, there's B, sensitive, and there's C, excluded. Where do you think this product essentially fall? Okay, I hear you. Okay, you said A. Okay, so I'll explain to you now. Let's go back to this. I'll explain to you what this essentially means for those of you trading or those of you advising traders across the continent. What an unsensitive product is, it's essentially a product that does not threaten a local industry. So for example, in Kenya, we have a lot of cotton and we have textile industry that has slowly been dying because of the Chinese import. So we have a lot of people importing clothes from Turkey, importing clothes from China, all these other countries. So what that essentially means is for something like cotton, it's essentially a threat to the local industry in Kenya. So anything that does not threaten local industries can be used as an input and is not economically delicate, then falls under A. Now, for Sereshen, you're a steel manufacturer. Essentially, you fall under A because not all African countries can have access to steel, products like steel. For Lydia, unfortunately, yours is a sensitive product. It falls under B. Now, wait, let me just go back a bit. I don't know whether I put this slide before or after. Okay. We'll get to it. I wanted to get it there. So, okay, to enjoy a reduced rate. Wait, no. Wait, let me just go back again. So exclusion products that fall under an exclusion list are those that completely do not enjoy a tariff reduction, which means that they're a threat to most African countries, right? Or economies, that is. So we'll now get into what qualifies these products to then get a certificate. To enjoy a reduced rate, the product must be listed in the importing country's AfCFTA schedules. So as I've stated, what AfCFTA does, it's not a blanket rule of tariff reduction. Each country presents or submits its AfCFTA tariff schedule that it states for this product, they fall under this list or category in our country. For this product, falls under non-sensitive for us because we don't have it and we need it as an input to also, grow our industries and so on and so forth. 2, the product must originate in an AfCFTA state party. On the chat box, Sereshen asked about when I asked the first question, whether the first question applied to AfCFTA state parties. Yes. So the country must have ratified the AfCFTA agreement. Then the importer must claim AfCFTA preference at customs. In the last webinar, we had the question where Sereshen is exporting from South Africa to Ghana, but wasn't able to benefit from AfCFTA from the AfCFTA benefits because he did not understand how essentially that works. So how that works is you have to claim that AfCFTA preference at customs. And how do you do that? You must make sure that you have a certificate of origin that shows your product falls under a certain category. We'll get into the more categories under the rules of origin, and we'll get into how you actually acquire certificate of origin, who actually gives it to you, and how to make sure that you benefit under the rules of origin. So as I've said, no, you don't have a certificate, no MFN rate applies. So regardless of being an exporter from an AfCFTA state party and exporting to another AfCFTA state party, if you've not made sure that you have the correct documentation, if you've not made sure that your products actually fall under the right category, then you risk losing out on AfCFTA benefits. So this is how you know that your product gets a reduced rate. So one, you have to identify your correct harmonized system code. For those who are not aware, any trading regime from the WTO, which is the World Trade Organization, where we have GATT, which is the agreement, the agreement that rules trading goods and essentially afterwards services, which was introduced later, trading goods and services worldwide, they operate under something called a harmonized system code. Now, when a product gets into a country, and this you'll need to get from your consultant or your advisor, whoever it is that you're working with, either in your company or externally, you'll identify what the harmonized code is. So if you import a good, it usually has a harmonized system code, which is often from the WTO system. Under the AfCFTA, we have a different harmonized code, which then differentiates goods. And you'll see why this is important as we get into the rules of origin. 2, check the importing country's AfCFTA tariff concession schedule. I can't stress this enough, but before you choose to export your goods to a certain country, it's very important to know which country actually offers better benefits and a better market for your goods so that you don't lose out on better tariff concessions. Then confirm product category. As I've said, is it an unsensitive product? Does it actually qualify for essentially 100% tariff reduction? Is this a sensitive product that's going to take a while and eventually may not get to 0%? And C, is it absolutely excluded, where you may never enjoy the tariff reduction under the AfCFTA. So you need to understand that, so that you don't go to a certain country and you're at the customs and you're saying, no, look, I have this, I've identified the correct harmonized system code. I understand this is a tariff that works in this country, but your good cannot essentially qualify because it's exempted. Then confirm that both countries are trading under AfCFTA, as I've just stated before. So I'm going to give a practical example. Last week class, we spoke about the GTI, which is a guided trade initiative, and we spoke about the countries that actually started trading under this. Now, I'll give an example of Kenya to Ghana because it was one of the earliest exports that Kenya had. So Kenya sold processed tea to Ghana. What this means is the tariff rate for this tea was reduced from 20, which is the WTO rule, to 0%. So any person who was exporting, or any industry or tea processor in Kenya, was enjoying a 0% tariff on the other side in Ghana, so long as they had acquired their AfCFTA certificate of origin. Now, where do you get this AfCFTA certificate of origin? Each country has a focal point. They all have implementation officers where that essentially guide what your product category is and guide you through acquiring that specific certificate of origin, which you then present to the customs office once you get to the other side. So what does this result to? It resulted to 20% duty saving for each exporter from Kenya to the Ghana market. So you see how they benefited when trading under the GTI system started. Now, what this means is tea in Kenya did not prove as a threat to the local industries in Ghana, and it therefore qualified as a non-sensitive product, and it enjoyed the 100% tariff reduction. Now we'll get to another example. Egypt and Uganda. the Egyptian manufacturers decide to export to Uganda. What do they export? They export electrical cables. MFN duty, which is a WTO system, as I've said, before we got even the REX and the AfCFTA trading system, all countries were trading under the WTO, which is the World Trade Organization. The MFN duty is 25% coming into Africa. What essentially that means is for this person trading electrical cables, because they are a sensitive product, getting into Uganda, year one, they enjoy a tariff rate of 15%. On the next slide, I'll show you how that changes in every year. As I've stated, goods do not get a 0% tariff immediately, especially if they're sensitive goods. Countries have agreed to take time to reduce the tariff to eventually a zero-rated, but most of them may not get to 0%, but we'll get to that. So what's the result of that? So not duty-free yet, but there's an immediate cost reduction at customs. One thing that I need us to get clear is AfCFTA does not reduce only reduces custom duties. It does not reduce VAT, excise duty, port charges, inspection fees, or standard compliance costs. So as a business person, you must make sure to budget for this separately. Yeah. So this is where you move from compliance to strategy. Before that, I just needed to put up a poll. Amani, could you please put up the next question? Because it's related to this practical example. Yeah. Sorry. So with this exercise, with what Amani is going to put up, we just need to understand or see we've gotten the understanding of how these categories work and what that tariff reduction looks like for different goods.
It's up for only 10 goods, right?
Yeah.
It's on the chat.
So thank you, Amani. You can just like put up your responses on chat as we proceed. So that can be happening as I go to the next slide. So as you're responding on the chat, this is where you move from compliance to strategy. One, you choose export destinations with faster tariff elimination. As I've stated, 8 countries started trading under the GTI, meaning they've gone further ahead on the tariff reduction and elimination regime in the AfCFTA, as opposed to those who just joined the AfCFTA. So you'll find a country like, let's say, Ghana is doing better with tariff elimination as opposed to Nigeria, but then that is guided by how soon or how later they joined the Guided Trade Initiative. Then 2, relocating light manufacturing to AfCFTA-friendly jurisdictions. So we'll understand how this works when we now get into the question that I've just posted is very related to understanding what kind of good do you have? Is it, where does it fall under the AfCFTA category of goods under rules of origin? Then you redesign supply chains to qualify for origin. I can't stress this enough, but we'll get into it further. Rules of origin, they guide if you get the certificate of origin because it actually qualifies what an African product is. So it's a term that's used often under AfCFTA. Is this an African product? And what essentially is an African product? We'll answer that shortly. Then lastly, you bundle AfCFTA benefits with investment incentives. You can choose to set up a go down at a special economic zone in a different country that you're exporting to, and use that as a point of redistribution or repackaging, or we'll get into this as we go further. But it's important to not just rely on AfCFTA, but also understand how investment benefits and incentives work in different countries, what they are, and how to benefit from them. So, and importantly, under the AfCFTA, said parties commit to reduce custom duties on eligible goods traded within Africa. Keyword is eligible, and we'll understand why that is. Goes back to the term, what's an African good? Subject to 1, product eligibility, rules of origin compliance, proper custom declaration. Rules of origin, if you ever trade in goods, you understand, if you don't meet the proper qualifications, then you miss out on that because of compliance reasons. So we're going to understand tariff rates before we get into the rules of origin. Now, you've had me state what the MFN is, most favored nation principle. So most favored nation rate is what applies, is standard, applies to all world members, WTO members. We have very few that are not WTO members, including Somalia, but that's for very political reasons. Then the AfCFTA rate is a preferential tariff for qualifying African goods. As I've stated, we'll understand what essentially falls under an African good. You only enjoy AfCFTA rates if you claim AfCFTA preference and meet all the requirements. Now, MFN rate is 25%. You'll find that for different countries, they've decided to do the reduction of 5 years. Others are doing it over 10 years, and we've understood why. If you're a developing country or you're not a least developed country, then you have only up to 5 years from the date you start trading to when you're supposed to make those goods zero rated, meaning no customs. Make it borderless for movement of goods. Now, for least developed countries, they take 10 years. Now, for these countries that take 5 years, year 1, you essentially allow a 5% reduction. Year 2, you reduce that to 10%. Then by year 5, it's zero rated. That's how it works. For the 10-year one, then it's split differently, where they're allowed more time to benefit from, customs tariff before essentially making it zero rated for the goods that qualify. So the question here is, and I'm going to look at your answers because it's very key to the next slide that we're headed to. If your shipment was valued at 50,000, how much duty do you then save in year 3? Assuming that you're trading from Mozambique to Ghana, and essentially you would pay 25%, which was the MFN rate. Now you're trading under AfCFTA. How much would you save in year 3? And it still goes back to the question Sarishan asked in last week's webinar on how he could have benefited if he understood the rules of origin and how to get the certificate of origin under AfCFTA. So I'll look at your answers as you respond to this one. Okay. So the question, let me see. The question was wholly obtained goods question. Yes. Which of the following is a wholly obtained product? Packaged rice imported from Asia and repackaged in Kenya, copper mined and refined in Zambia, electronics assembled in Ghana from foreign parts, then wheat milled in Egypt using imported grain. Okay. Those of you who responded said B. Is that everyone's answer? Okay. Okay. B. All right. Okay. It seems. Yeah. All right. It seems that was an easy question because everyone got it right. So I need not explain further, but we'll get into the different categories because now you've already known there's one category, which is a wholly obtained good. But we're going to get into it. So you can respond to the question on the screen, and then we now move to rules of origin. Now we've gone digital, so I'm sure everyone has a calculator on their phone. Just two answers, and then we go. So the reason why that exercise is important, I'm assuming you're all on your calculators and pen and paper. Okay, Sarishan, that's good. Thank you, Irene. So I'll assume they're representing everybody else on this class today, and both of them are correct. So that's just to show you why the AfCFTA essentially is actually working. And as the implementation goes further, then for businesses that understand how AfCFTA works, then they get to save a lot of money. And yeah, it's better to be on the know because there's no defense for ignorance. So now we're going to get into the most interesting part of it as we wind up today's class. And the reason why this is the most important part of it is everything else we've discussed will be useless if you don't understand this, which is the rules of origin. So what's the rules of origin? Now, rules of origin are the legal criteria used to determine the nationality of a product for trade purposes. I've kept on asking a question as we've gone through the webinar, and the question was, what essentially is an African good? What African goods? Now, under AfCFTA, what they do, they prevent transshipment of non-African goods, simple repackaging or relabeling, and abuse of preferential tariffs. Remember, in the first class last week, we discussed how the progress has been of intra and extra African trade before and after AfCFTA was formulated, where before we used to trade more with other countries than within ourselves in Africa. But now, once that is done, we're trying to make sure that there's more value addition to our goods locally. In African countries, there's more industrialization. And the reason why policy was formulated is to also encourage, small and local business owners to get markets and expand out of their territory. So essentially breaking down the borders for sale of these goods. And that would not happen if a Chinese company decides to come and set up in a special economic zone, brings whatever goods they bring in, clothes or whatever, then repackages it in the special economic zone, then uses an African name to trade within Africa. It beats the entire point. So that's why it's important to understand the rules of origin. And if you're in partnership with a company that's not African, you'll now get to understand how that works for you or how that works for them. Then also abuse of preferential tariffs. So this is what it does to make sure that people trading in these goods actually meet the categories to enjoy the privileges. So only goods, as I've stated before, only goods that originate in an AfCFTA state party qualify for reduced tariffs. Now, here comes the question after the question. No, the answer after the question. AfCFTA has 3 legal doors. Your product must walk through at least one. Number 1, it must be either a wholly obtained good or resource or product. Number 2, it must go through substantial transformation. Or number 3, it must meet the accumulation requirement, right? Or criteria. Now, the most complicated of this is the substantial transformation. And a lot of consultations I've gotten so far have been asking me, how do we know that this good has actually gone through substantial transformation? so that we're able to trade in a different African country? And we're going to get to the answer. Now that I've seen everyone understands what a wholly obtained good is, we'll get into it. Now, as I've stated, categories of originating products under AfCFTA, all these are guided by the rules of origin. What's a wholly obtained product? It's a product that entirely produced in one or more AfCFTA state parties with no non-African inputs. So even if you're making a dress and you get your buttons from Britain, or you get them from France, or you're making a bag and you get your keychain from a different country that's not in Africa, it automatically stops being a wholly obtained product. Now, examples of this is agricultural produce grown or harvested in Africa, minerals extracted from African soil, live animals born and raised in Africa, fish caught in Africa territorial waters, so on and so forth. This also includes cotton, as I've just stated, for people in textile industry. Now, this is the most interesting part, and I'd like all of us to be keen, because then this is the most confusing as much as it's the most interesting. Products made using foreign inputs but sufficiently processed in Africa. Now, what does this mean? Because there's 3 different tests under that test. It's like you open the door, but the door is still locked. There's this meme going around for education is a key. Then you open the door and there's another door. Anyway, just for laughs. This is where most businesses fall and where most mistakes happen. There's 3 different tests for substantial transformation. 1, a change in tariff heading. What does this mean? At the beginning of today's class, we spoke about we spoke about we spoke about the headings that a product has when they're getting into a country, right? So, for example, you've imported. Let me use an example of I've used clothes so much. I want to see what can be substantially changed in Africa, because we're still developing. Let me use phone. Let me use, for example, a phone, right? So when those parts are getting into Africa, they already have harmonized code, right? HS code. Now, once that code comes into Africa, and let's say only one number changes, but it's not. Now this is where it gets more interesting, because you need to understand, as I've stated before, through your consultant or through your advisor, you need to understand what the HS code for that product is while getting into Africa. Then after that, they can tell you, if you make a transformation on that product, if the tariff heading entirely changes, or it changes by an unsubstantial rate, that it remains essentially under the same topic. So each tariff heading there's a heading, subheading, and so on and so forth. It's more complex, and this needs like a separate session, but that will not be under the master classes. That's a different consultation thing. But now, understanding where your product falls will essentially determine if it's been substantially transformed under the AfCFTA regulations. So you must bring in an African product on top of that, to make it substantially made in Africa, or to make it an African product. So if the tariff changes, if you just bring in a phone and just put in a case made in Congo or made out of rubber, I don't know from where, and the product is still the same, the product is still from Kenya, it's still from France, it's still from wherever, then when you're selling it under AfCFTA, you don't essentially qualify under rules of origin, so you cannot get that certificate of origin. Number 2 is a value addition threshold. It's closely tied to change in tariff heading, because you can't have a change in tariff if you do not have a value addition, and this must be originally gotten from an African country, or it can be from different African countries, bring them together into your manufacturing plant or processing plant, and then change the good entirely into something different, or if it's the same thing, but essentially have, substantial value addition to it. Then lastly, specific processing requirements. We'll get into percentages and all that. The last category is cumulative products. Now, what does this mean? It means products made in Africa using inputs from various African countries. It means getting, let's say, flowers and I'm just looking at what different countries really have. But imagine getting products, let's say, in Egypt, and you're based in Morocco, then your industry that's based in Morocco does not essentially have any goods that it gets from Morocco, but it gets the goods from Egypt and another of its product from, let's say, Namibia. So you bring all those into Morocco and process them while in Morocco, and you've made a cumulative product, and that essentially qualifies under the rules of origin. So you're essentially able to get your to get your certificate of origin because it does fall under this. So before that, I wanted to throw in a question because I wanted us to understand the change in tariff headings. So Amani, if you could please put in the next question.
Hi, Brenda. Could you tell me the exact you'd like for the threshold? Value addition, right? MCQ1. Okay.
Yeah.
It's up.
Okay. Thank you. So it's on the chat box. You can respond to that, and then we'll get into. And then after that, once we get like 7 responses, you can then add MCQ too. All right. Thanks, Arshen and Irene. We can now put MCQ2.
Yeah, just give me 1 minute, please, Brenda. I'll put it.
All right. So the first question is change in tariff heading. So imported sugar falls under HS 1701 and is processed in a confectionery into HS 1704 in Senegal. So this is a tariff heading that has moved from HS 1701 to 1704 in Senegal. Does this mean, does this meet the change in tariff heading rule? Yes, no, or only if value addition is above 40%. Option D is only if exported within ECOWAS. We have 2 answers so far. Okay. That's a good try. Let me see. Eric, sorry, is your response to question 1 or 2? The value addition test or? Okay. All right, so I'll assume 3 answers for A, question 1. And then question, right, Andrea, I also see your answer for question 1. So now question 2, value addition test. A product has free on board price for 100 USD. Then African value added was $35. The required threshold is 40%. Does it qualify? This is more of a calculation question, actually. Okay. And lastly, MCQ3, Amani.
It's up.
All right, thank you. Okay. All right, so now we'll get into it. So the first question was change in tariff heading, changes from HS 1701 to HS 1704, but done in Senegal, who had imported this sugar, but it's transformed into confectionery. So does it meet the CTH rule? The answer is those who answered A are correct. The answer is yes, because then it's changed into a totally different product and a totally different heading. Because under every CTH, there's a heading and a subheading. So when it changes the heading completely, then it then qualifies. But if it was 1701.1 or under the same heading, then it essentially wouldn't have changed. So those who said yes are correct. Number 2, the value addition test. If a product free on board was worth 100 USD, then when it came to Africa, the value added was 35 USD. Does that qualify under the value addition test if the required threshold is 40%? Remember, each country submit its own rules under substantive addition or transformation. So the answer is no. So it was just a calculation issue. Just do the percentage, 35 over 100, it's 35%. Hasn't met the threshold, so does not qualify. Then lastly, insufficient processing. Which of the following is not sufficient to confer origin? 1, simple packaging. B, labeling. C, minor assembly, and D, all of the above. So I see, okay, so we had 2 different answers here. I'm just going to ask Eric, what was the reasoning behind your answer? Any answer is correct, by the way, like the reasoning is important. Eric, you can just type it on the chat box. Okay, so as he's typing, I think I just have a general question. And on this part, we can choose to unmute because then it's the engagement, the interactive engagement session where we hear from you and the businesses you're in and the goods you trade and identify where they're essentially for and see if they actually qualify for this. But before we get into it, I don't know whether I'm able to type this out, but out of this entire session, what do you think is the most important document to have as an exporter from any African country to another if you want to qualify under the AfCFTA rules? Perfect. Yeah. Thank you, Sarishan. Anyone else with a different answer? Okay, yeah. All right, yeah, both of you are correct. It's actually the certificate of origin. So essentially, this one, Andrew. Okay, perfect. I just seen your response. Yeah, so essentially that's the most important document for you to prove that. However, there's something that I'd like to say on this, since it seems we've all understood up to this point, the importance of having the certificate of origin and making sure that it falls under the right code. And actually, if it's an imported good, it's gone through substantive transformation to meet that rule, or if it's from different African countries, it still qualifies because of the cumulative criteria, then the most important thing after all this is to make sure as a business you have proper accounting or proper record keeping to be able to qualify for this rules of origin, because then there's that test that is done over time to see if you're good actually qualified. So yeah, so that marks the end of today's session. I hope it's been interesting for everyone. But now at this point, I'm going to take questions. So we go back and forth. Yeah, the floor is open. You can just write it on the chat box, those who can't unmute themselves at this point. But you can also choose to just raise your hand. Amani, you can take the questions.
Sarah Shan has a question. Just for the rest, sorry, Sarah Shan, before you start, for the rest of the people, or if you would like to unmute yourself and ask a question, just raise your hand so that I can be able to pick on you while Sarah Shan is speaking.
Hi, Brenda. Hi, Amani. Hi, team. Thanks for the wonderful webinar. I just wanted to find out under the substantial transformation, and if I could use an example other than what we looked at on the webinar. Brenda, if we have hard wearing plate, which is only produced in India and Turkey outside of Europe, right? And that has to come in, but we want to bring it into SA. We want to laser cut them into different components which go into these large crushers in Ghana. And I'm assuming, I can't be correct, but there might be a tariff change, there might not. But if there isn't a tariff change and we look at substantial transformation or value addition, we are taking a plate and we are using a laser cutter to cut it into different components. Will that constitute a substantial transformation to be able to fall under the agreement or not really?
That's a good question, Sarishan. Yes, it does. Yes, it does, because I remember when we spoke about the different products and how the reduction is done in different African countries. If it does not if it does not threaten a local industry already in Kenya with what exists in Africa, then it does fall under value addition. The HS code will eventually change because say you cut it up and process it further into a different, I'd say, shape molecule, whatever that is. Because I'm not in the metal industry, I wouldn't know the final product. But yes, if essentially it meets that criteria where it doesn't threaten the local industry and it goes through further processing and substantial transformation, yes, it meets the criteria and qualifies for a certificate of origin.
Thank you.
Welcome.
As other people are raising their hands, Brenda, I'm very curious about the service industry and where there's a need for exchange of skilled resources from one African country to the other. How do we benefit from this agreement if you're in the service industry? There's no certificate of origin, but I mean, the certificate of origin, I'm African, I'm just, but then you will need to invoice that country. So how do we benefit from the AfCFTA?
Yeah, there's a whole protocol on trading services, and you want to jump before the, what is it called? Jump before the gun.
I just wanted to know if there's something that covers the service industry.
Yes, it is covered. We're gonna get into protocol on goods in services. That's a totally different webinar.
Okay.
Yeah. But thanks for I feel like even for last time, Sarshan was asking a question totally related to this webinar. So that's good. Sarshan?
Hi, sorry, it's me again. I tried to find, you spoke about a focal point for the free trade agreement office in every country.
Yes.
So I was trying to find the one in SA, and it redirected me either to the Department of Trade and Industry or the South African Revenue Service. And both of them have AfCFTA email addresses. Which one do you think? Do you think we just go straight to SARS and engage with them rather than wasting our time with the DTIC? Or what would be your avenue for us to start engaging with them and getting these certificates?
Yeah. So engage directly with the Ministry of Trade in your country because all these focal points are essentially established under the Ministry of Trade in each of these countries. So, for example, in Kenya, it's under MITI, which is the Ministry of Trade and Industry. For Ghana as well, it should be under the Ministry of Trade. So, for most countries, it's established under the Ministry of Trade and KRA, SARS, whatever you call the revenue authority in your country, what it does is essentially just make sure that it's registered the different products and the new tariffs under each product, just for purposes of that. But the DTIC, the trade ministry in your country should be able to assist you with that because they essentially pay the focal point employees.
And then just in my understanding, this won't really, as an exporter into African country, it won't benefit me, but it will benefit my clients if I can support them by giving them the document that you're talking about, us getting from SARS, correct?
Yes. Are they based in Africa? Are they an
Yeah,
African?
in Ghana. I'm using Ghana as specifically as the example because we've been shipping there. And I think probably if it was 10 or 15%, and it was, I'm just using the example, supposed to be zero, then on the last few containers that have went through, they've not benefited from that. So maybe there's a chance that if they can derive a benefit of 15% on that side, I can increase my price by 15%. I'm just using an example, or 10% or 5%,
Absolutely. I think that's why we're all here to try and see where the benefit is under AfCFTA. So essentially, we can just have a session after this session, just have a side chat and see where the goods fall under. And essentially, I could guide you through that.
Thanks, Brenda.
You're welcome.
Brenda, there's a question on the chat from
Okay.
Eric. I don't think he's able to speak, but
Okay.
asking what is substantial transformation of a product? Maybe he joined after you had explained a little bit.
Oh, okay, okay. No worries, Eric. What I can do, I can just take us back because so what we said is for any business owner to benefit under the AfCFTA rules, you need to understand the rules of origin. That's the back end, long and short answer of it. Now, under rules of origin, your product needs to fall under three different categories. The first one is wholly obtained in Africa. It can be agricultural, can be industrial, whichever, can be minerals, right? Then there's substantially transformed products. This is where a product is imported from a different country that's not within Africa, but once it gets here, it is processed further through either there's the three-tier test for making sure that it's actually substantially transformed. And Sershan asked a question earlier regarding what happens when he imports this metal from India that's not found in Africa, then breaks it down and is processed further in Ghana, or for sale in Ghana, processed in South Africa for sale in Ghana. If it's gone through value addition where it's not the same, you've not sold it as you got it, because as I've said, once a product gets into an African country, it comes in under a HS code, which is a harmonization system code under the WTO. Once it comes in, AfCFTA has its own harmonization code that then varies. So if it's moved from, for example, the question that we put up earlier, if it's moved from HS 1701 to HS 1704, immediately you know there's change in tariff heading. So it does qualify for a certificate of origin. If there's value addition, it must meet the threshold. Different countries have different threshold for different goods because they know what essentially threatens their local industries. So they would know what essentially fits there. Then there's a specific processing requirement where they just say, for this product, for you to resell it, you don't just repackage it. You don't just change the cover or do this. That you must process it in this and this way. And that's why it's very important to go over the tariff concession schedule submitted by each country that you intend to sell your products to. I hope I've answered your question.
There's also another question from Andrew.
Yes, Andrew, yes, I did tackle this initially. So how do customs authority verify that a product truly meets the rules of origin under AfCFTA? It's simple. Before you leave your country, make sure you have a certificate of origin. So among the documents you have, and that's why I stress at the beginning, the reason why people don't benefit under AfCFTA is because they don't have their documents together. So you'll go to a different state party, and once you get there, you're at the customs claiming for an exemption or preferential treatment of your goods. However, your goods do not have a certificate of origin that actually shows what category and classification your goods fall under. So without that, essentially, and that's why the last question I posed to the attendees today was, what document do you think essentially you must have to benefit under AfCFTA? And the answer was certificate of origin. So that's how they verify. And they already have gone through that training, specific training, to know how the certificate of origin under AfCFTA looks like and what the tariff schedule for these countries look like. Yes, it's not much, but the process of getting the certificate of origin is what takes a while. So it's good to, yeah. Just go back to the question Sershan asked about what office to go to. I spoke about the focal points in each country, and each country actually has an implementation policy of the AfCFTA. So it's guided, the focal points are guided by the implementation policy in each country to make sure that they actually issue the proper certificates of origin for each product. Yeah, so thank you so much for your questions. I think that's it for today. Because we've gotten to the end, we've discussed up to the last one. Our next webinar is going to be on 28th of January 2025, which is the next week, same time. Of course, it's going to be between 1 hour 30 minutes and 2 hours, depending on engagement. But for today, I really hope that we've gotten the understanding or a clear understanding of from where the AfCFTA was established from the first class to now being able to benefit under the AfCFTA. So in webinar 3, we're going to go further into importing and exporting under the AfCFTA. And before I close, I'd like to take this chance to introduce the companies that have sponsored today's webinar. So under the Africa Collaboration Chamber, there's Grid Circle, there's Grating Africa, Enabler, IN. Yeah, if I've not forgotten any of the companies that made this possible today, and I'd like to applaud each of you, because then you've made this possible and you're not selfish with information, because often people just want to benefit by themselves, but you want to share, so that's very important. I'm going to pass the mic back to Amani, who's also going to share about the Power Connect event that we're having in August, and also share about the side event we have in Ghana in February. So thank you so much.
Hi, Brenda. Thank you so much for giving us your time and breaking it down. I think now we're getting deeper and deeper into understanding the AfCFTA. Once it came out, we were just, what is this? And I think not many people were able to understand how they can take advantage of this continental free trade area agreement. But at Africa Collaboration Chamber, we believe that it's within us to make the changes that we need to progress as a continent, and knowing that we are intending to have a borderless Africa binded by the agreement. And this is why we exchange knowledge, we exchange resources to be able to understand how to trade with each other, how to know what is the expectation of other countries when you move into those countries and when you want to set up your businesses. So for the Power Connect, Lydia, be very ready to talk about the Power Connect event, because she is the brains behind the Power Connect event. However, just as a general note to everyone at Africa Collaboration Chamber, due to the fact that we would like to connect as many Africans as possible from north to south and exchange knowledge, we do events, very curated events such as this masterclass, so that we can exchange knowledge and opportunities. And therefore, our next stop for this year will be Ghana. We are supporting the Africa Prosperity Dialogues happening in Accra International Conference, happening on the 4th to 6th of February. The Africa Collaboration Chamber will host a business meet and greet cocktail. The venue will be advised. However, the possibilities will be at the ambassador's residence, Mozambique ambassador to Ghana's residence. This is where the meet and greet cocktail for the Africa Collaboration Chamber will be. So if you're in Ghana, please connect with us. We'll be happy to meet you while we're in Ghana. Brenda will be there as well. Prepare your money, because she will be consulting for the AfCFTA, because I feel there's so much that we need to understand on the agreement. And also, we will be going to Kenya in August, on the 21st of August, for the Power Connect event. What is the Power Connect? I don't know, what, Lydia, would you want to talk about Power Connect? Is Lydia here? I think she's here.
She's here.
Yes, I'm here, but you can carry on. Then I'll come in where you want me to come in, if
Okay.
that's okay with you.
Yeah, it's also part of what we do. We move Q1, we are going to the west of Africa. Q2, we will be in East Africa. Q3, we will be in the southern region, and then Q4, we will decide where we will be able to close the year. So Power Connect will be happening in Kenya on the 21st of August. The venue will be the Marriott Hotel in Nairobi, to bring like-minded people within the East African region to talk about infrastructure, energy, agriculture, and all the backbone industries that will benefit for a borderless Africa. Meet and greet business community, especially young people who are really looking forward to make a change within their communities and within their countries. For long, we've been fed information, but it's in very bigger chunks. We're not able to bite piece by piece, and we don't know where to apply and how to apply this information. So these curated spaces allows us to have these conversations, to identify opportunities within each region and see how within the chamber we are able to give each other this opportunity. So Ghana, for February, August will be Kenya for the Power Connect. Please connect with Lydia and Brenda as well for the Power Connect event. If you're in agriculture, infrastructure, energy, and finance, those are the key industries, but it doesn't mean that if you're in another industry, you're not welcomed, but those will be the backbone, because we feel these are the main drivers of the economic progress within the African continent. More details will be shared later, but Lydia, you can talk a little bit more on how people can reach out to you or for the Power Connect event, and then we will discuss more on what will be coming after in the Southern African region, specifically Mozambique and Johannesburg.
Thank
Amani?
you very much, Amani.
Sorry to interrupt.
Can I go? Should I? Okay.
Yes, I just remembered. After Ghana, we're going to Uganda. So once Lydia speaks, we're going to speak again.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, team. Thank you, Brenda, for this session. Just to add on, to contribute on what Amani has said. So Power Connect is not a conference; it's an investment marketplace. So we successfully launched last year, and we're looking forward to hosting it again in Kenya this year under the theme "Invest in Kenya." So this is designed for people who are serious about deals, partnerships, and capital deployment in Africa. So if you're tired of attending conferences where nothing happens after the panels, Power Connect is built for you. It is deal driven. So we're not just talking driven. So participants don't come to just sit and listen. They come to meet the right people in pre-arranged one-on-one meetings tailored to their sector and objectives. Probably you have questions wondering why Kenya as the investment front door. We're positioning Kenya as the Africa's frontier investment hub. Stable policy, strong region. Not as saying other countries they're not, but due to the research that we've done and speak to people in different key sectors. So stable policy, strong region access, and leadership in renewable energy, manufacturing, and climate. If you want to know more, want to have an idea of what exactly goes on at Power Connect, you can reach me on, I will type in my number in the chat, or you can reach me on LinkedIn, Lydia Kapangila. I'll be more than happy to share with you more details that will be happening at the Power Connect in Kenya. And just before I leave, as everybody knows here, those who know me knows I'm a money person. We are open to sponsors, partners, and participants if you want to participate in the next Power Connect that will be happening in August. So giving you enough time to brainstorm. And if you've got any questions, please feel free. Reach out. I'll type in my number. Please reach out only on WhatsApp, text. I hardly pick up the calls. I'll put in my number there with the code. If you've got any question, anything that you want to know about the Power Connect, please feel free. I am available. Thank you, guys. Brenda, over to you.
Thank you, Lydia. Sorry, I'd forgotten to discuss about the Uganda Oil and Gas Conference. So the Uganda Oil and Gas Conference is being hosted by the Uganda Chamber of Energy and Minerals. And they've invited they've invited us to not only attend but be an active part of the conversation. So not so many people understand the stage Uganda is at in terms of the oil, especially now that we're at the extraction phase of it. And so this is coming at a very pivotal time. So we'd be heading there on the 28th and 29th of April. That's in 3 months' time. So if you're also interested in attending, you can also reach out. So we'd be happy to have you. Yeah, Amani, you can.
Yeah, yes, thank you for the Uganda oil and gas. I really encourage emerging people from the emerging countries in terms of oil and gas, Mozambique, Tanzania, and Namibia. It will be very instrumental if you attend so that we can learn from what Uganda has done to get to an almost close of our final FID in July, which is expected in July 2026. So this is the work that we do. We go in and fetch and know the opportunity and know where, as Africans, we need to learn from each other. So I really encourage anyone attending today who is in the energy sector to make time and get to attend the Uganda Oil and Gas Convention on the 20th, as Brenda has mentioned. And as Africa Collaboration Chamber, being an active and strategic partner of this event means that we also have discounted packages and also very customized packages for people, especially from Mozambique, Tanzania, and Namibia. Why do we target these countries? Because they're almost on the same phase. It's only that now Uganda has shown us the way, how they've dealt with the big international oil companies. We can learn from them. There will be field excursions where people will go directly to see the projects, the Kingfisher project, the ECOP project. People will go on the ground to see these projects. And it's very important to be curious about where does your oil come from, where does your energy come from, so that it can actually change your perspective on how you view energy, and also see the whole value chain of energy within Africa and see how you can be able to contribute. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We really do appreciate, and we hope that it's been a masterclass for you, and I hope you will be able to apply the knowledge that you've acquired today. It's an 8-week program. Today was the second session, so the next sessions will be digging deeper and deeper into the AfCFTA protocols, so that all of us should not be left behind, unless really you want to be left behind. This is our purpose here, to exchange the knowledge so that each of us can economically grow and also be able to share this knowledge with the next generation. If there's any questions, please raise your hand. If there's no question, I think we will end it there, and I will definitely again want to see you next week. We'll give it 3, 4, 5 minutes to see if anybody has any comments, or it doesn't need to be a question, it can be a comment. And if not, guests are free to leave at their own pleasure, and we can end the event. Brenda, any final words for us?
No, thanks for joining and for being an interactive audience for today. I really appreciate it, because then there's no perfect masterclass more perfect than one that there's interaction between the audience and what we're learning. So I'm grateful for the active audience today.
Thank you. thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon and see you all next week.